All right, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Mr. McLogan, and welcome to another Open Live Q&A. We are getting ready into the exam season, so I'm happy to be back on and answer some of your questions. So if you have any math questions, then feel free to go ahead and submit them to brianmclogan.com/Q&A. I'll go ahead and take a look. I have about, I think, 3 or 4 math questions that I got assigned to that I'll go ahead and work on from on here, but also you can put your questions inside the chat and I'll try to be able to get to them as much as I can. If you have any other just general questions related around math or about the school or kind of the end of the year, then feel free to add them down in the chat and I will try to do my best. I missed it last week because it was, spring break for my kids. So we were just a little busy, but I wanted to get back to the consistency of the Sunday night. And actually, I just realized I don't even have my chat open. My YouTube app is now not working all crazy, so I'm not able to see it. But there you go. I got your chat, so now I can see as comments come in. So whatever you guys got it from there. So let me see if I got this. Let's see. And every single time it always changes. Let's see how it looks today. There you go. Hey, Leah. Good to have you on. Alexa, solving rational inequalities. Thanks for letting me know. Yes, go ahead and submit it because there could be a lot of questions or a lot of different problems that we can go through. So you can submit them at the brianmclogan.com/Q&A. I have it also in the chat. And then you guys can go and check out. There we go. Finally. I don't know why my YouTube. I had to reset my computer. I did it before I left. We had a dinner, hence why I'm wearing my old teacher kind of uniform. Not really. Actually, I always wore dress shirts. I never wore polos. I don't know what it was. Throughout my years of teaching, I almost never wear a polo. It was always a dress shirt and dress pants. And but now I really enjoy wearing just a polo shirt, especially for going out to dinner or whatnot. But yeah, so we had a little dinner and I got back just in time for the live stream because I wanted to start being consistent going with the 9 p.m. So therefore I can be back there and answer your questions. And I did want to, I'll be able to see maybe on my Algebra 2 channel, I'll see how my day goes, but I will be starting doing a final exam prep on the Algebra 2 channel. So if you are interested in that, go ahead and I'll go and post a link for my Algebra 2 channel. And then I'll also post a link on the community post. So therefore, if you guys are interested in that, I think I'll probably do another live stream at 9 p.m. tomorrow. But I'll make sure that I post it in there. So therefore, you guys are know. Can you help with graphing rational functions? Yeah, I'll try to go ahead and do my best. I don't think I have any problems on this, but yeah, if you can go and submit a question, that'd be probably the best and the easiest. Hey, Miguel, Joel, how do you convert a quadratic factored form? How do you convert a quadratic in factored form to a quadratic in quadratic standard form? So all you simply want to do in that case, you just want to multiply them out. So, think about if it's in quadratic factor form, it's typically going to be like a binomial times a binomial. Well, then just factor it out using distributive property, or a lot of times we think about that as FOIL could be for there as well. Adeline, you tremendously helped me. Well, you are very welcome. So happy to be able to be there for you. And yeah, so I'm looking, a couple things I was looking into. I wanted to do my old math challenge in March. I didn't have enough time to go ahead and do it. But I did have some new reviews for Algebra 2 and Pre-Calculus. I was looking into getting back, and I think I'm going to probably do them for over these live streams that I will have. So I got to tailor into my schedule, but that's something I'm going to be looking into for you guys. Let me see if I can get I always don't like when I don't have the live stream kind of portal. Therefore, I can just kind of see as far as making sure the stream and everything else is going through. And also it shows the comments on there. So it's a little bit faster than using my eCam, which has a nice little delay. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up here on my right-hand side. But yeah, so, I was going to put in another question for you guys. I had a nice little poll because I wanted to see if I'm going to be doing some live streams looking into where it's so weird, we always had exams in my school would be at the end of May. And I know like colleges is usually going to be a couple weeks earlier, but like I had some people commenting on my YouTube channel, like they have exams coming up next week. And I know like my channel, hits at different school systems all around the world, but I was just kind of curious when most students were, taking their exams. Because one big thing I'm always a proponent of is having at least 4 to 6 weeks ahead of your exam to be preparing. And so we're kind of like getting into that close, time frame, I would say, for majority of people. But I could be wrong. If you're taking it like at the end of May, or maybe even have exams in the beginning of June, I want to see like how realistic that was. So I was going to create a poll, and I'll just kind of see, I don't know, once I have the notability, go and create a poll. And I'd like you guys to go ahead and add in that poll, so therefore we can kind of see when everybody is looking into taking your exam. So let me go and see. But in the meantime, if you have any other questions that you want me to answer, then go ahead and put it down in the chat. I'll go ahead and go through those. If you have a math question that you actually want me to go ahead and do a math problem, then go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A, and I'll go ahead and take a look at it. But yeah, I was looking into doing some special streams on my pre-calculus as well as algebra 2 channel for more geared towards not so much like open live Q&A like I do here, but really kind of getting into doing a review on for those sections. Yeah, I didn't do the 30-day math challenge. I don't know. If you've been around my group, I didn't think I did it last year, but the years before, I did it. I want to know if you're ever curious on that. I think I'm still going live. Yeah. I'm curious if anybody's actually done the 30-day math challenge. I really enjoyed it. But then what happened is I made it an algebra 1, an algebra 2, a pre-calculus, a calculus. And so I made all these different challenges, and you can just imagine like all those videos and all the problems come from the email sequence. And then if I made an error, if I had to switch out a video, it became so crazy, and people would email me every single day, about something that they did or how they did their problem. And it became more work than it was worth. It was a free challenge, right? And it was designed to help students do a math problem every single day. And I think maybe I'll do that challenge again, but maybe do it on my own channels. So people can kind of follow along with that, because it was fun and I really did enjoy it. But having people to go through on the email, I don't know. It was just a lot. And then also people want to be rewarded for getting the problem right, but the challenge wasn't really about who could do all the math problems. It was just for you to be consistent. That's all I wanted to teach you on that math challenge. So I don't know. I'll think about resurrecting it again. And maybe, I could resurrect it in April, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just curious if anybody's actually even done if anybody here on this channel has done, did the 30-day math challenge, because I didn't do it this year and I didn't do it last year. So it would have been something that would have been on my channel. Yeah. Maybe 2+ years ago. Okay. Let's see. Let me just type in this poll real quick. And I'm assuming this is going to be for people that are actually taking their final exam. Sweet. All right, cool. Now let's go and get into these. Get into your guys' questions. Determine the properties of quadratic functions, a standard intercept form. Yeah, sir. So I'll need a little bit more information on what you want to address. So if you submit it, you can on my link, you can just type in whatever you want specifically. And then if you have some pictures or anything else, you can provide me that context, but I'd want a little more context. So therefore whatever I am explaining or teaching, I can make sure it's going to be beneficial for you. Leah says, what's the most important basic math skill to know, in your opinion? That's a good question. You know what? I think one thing that we always harp on in high school mathematics is students having a solid understanding of just number sense. And so I think, knowing like the basics of numbers, the addition, the subtraction, squaring, and being able to work with them, and even like with fractions and decimals, and having just a solid understanding of the number sense and that basics, I think can do you a lot of good. And I'll put it to you this way, like one thing that comes up with a lot of students is factoring. They struggle with factoring, and they always want to rely on a technique that they can just follow the algorithm to be able to factor. And which is fine. Like we all learn factoring at different stages and use it at different levels for different reasons. But one thing I've noticed is the students that excel in factoring typically have a strong number sense. And they're not confused with understanding the factors of a number. They're not confused with being able to understand what numbers multiply as well as add or subtract to get your middle term. So I feel like really having a strong number sense can really pay off huge dividends for you. And so, while there can be a debate and, a lot of things can be said about a lot of different skills, I think just having a good solid foundation of number sense might be one of the most important things for you. Why can't I move this over? There we go. How do you factor polynomials completely? Well, keep on factoring it down till you have factors with x to the first power from on there. So I'll always look to factor out the GCF first. And then there's obviously multiple different factoring techniques you can go through with factoring trinomials or factoring by grouping. Always look for special factoring techniques like perfect square trinomials and difference of two squares. But yeah, you want to be able to get to a product of linear factors. That means x is going to be raised to the first power. But if you have a specific problem, then go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A, and I'll go ahead and take a look at it. Well, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. Could you go over solving nonlinear systems of equations? That would be awesome if I could create one in my head. Unfortunately, I do not have any examples in my head. I do have a couple of videos that I have created on my YouTube channel that you can go and take a look at. It'd be like nonlinear systems. But as far as creating a problem, I would probably ask for a little bit of help from you if you could maybe submit one for me, and then I'll be more than happy to take a look at it and see if we can answer it there. Hello, what advice would you give a ninth grader? I love these advice questions. If I was going to go back to ninth grade, or if I was going to have a child of mine that was going into ninth grade, or if I was going to talk to some ninth graders that were getting started, and let's pretend, I don't know, that you're going into your ninth grade year. Maybe this is, I'm assuming what maybe you're referring to. My advice to you would choose your friends wisely, because a lot of times the friends that you have is going to dictate the path that you're going to take. So choose your friends wisely. If you feel like you're not in a good group of friends that are helping you perform at the best of your ability or that are going to support you, then you might need to find a different group. And that's okay. You can still be friends with people and be friendly with them and still hang out with them, but not maybe have like your core group of friends. So I think as a freshman, it's really, really important to choose your friends wisely. I think also understand that, these are entering into your ninth grade is kind of like the last 4 years that I think as far as responsibility goes, it's kind of like those last 4 years, before you're really, really going to be held accountable for everything that you say and do and perform on. So enjoy it, have fun with it, but also put in the work, right? And, don't let things slip by, put in the hard work, but also realize if you're not at a place or a point where you think you deserve to be at, let's say when you like fail a test or, you're struggling, that's okay. It's not a race. Learning math or learning any course is not going to be a race, but make sure you put in the work, but have fun, enjoy it, meet new people. Don't just, even though I say choose your friends wisely, but also be open to meeting and hanging out with new people and gain friendships, because those friendships that you create in those next 4 years, could be some lifelong friends that you have. So take your time to enjoy it, put in the hard work, but also realize that, everything is not all or nothing. You're going to have the rest of your life ahead of you. So, it's a balancing act, I think, with anything else. If you had, where'd that go? Come on. There you go. I hate that. Okay. So if you had to pick a favorite math topic, what would it be? I would probably say my favorite two math topics that I taught. I mean, I really did like proofs. When I was learning, proofs, trig identities, and what was it? Graph theory. Those are kind of like my three favorite math topics. I would say linear trigonometric identities was probably my favorite to like teaching. And trig, I just really, really enjoyed that. But as far as like for me as a math student, it would have been graph theory and proofs. I really just, I don't know. I think I had really, really good professors for it. They made it engaging, and it was just really exciting for me when I took that. I currently average 100 in math in math normal stream. Should I be going into AP? Will my grade suffer? I wouldn't think about your grade suffering. I really don't care if your grade is suffering. I think you just need to balance the idea of putting the challenge for you. And if it's worth it for you to go into an AP course. If it is, then go for it. You might struggle. Your grade might suffer. I just don't think that is the biggest thing that you need to be concerned with. I understand grades are very important. I understand there's scholarships and everything that is at stake. I get it. But I don't know. I'm also just a big believer of doing the best I can and letting the chips fall where they are. I believe in a little bit for like on destiny. If I don't get into whatever college I thought I was destined to go to, my life is going to turn out all right. And I want you to fight for the school, what you want to go into and putting in the work. But I think if you're always going to be concerned about what your grade is, and if you shouldn't take this course because now it might harm the grade, I just don't think you're putting yourself in the best position for success, because success it's a rocky road, and there's going to be times of, struggle. There's going to be times of failure. So I think you need to prepare for that, and avoiding a class just because it might harm your grade, I don't think in every situation is the best way to look at things. Now, again, I don't know enough about your situation to truly give you advice. So I would highly recommend talking with your teacher, your professor, and your parents and your guidance counselor on that. But I don't know. I don't like playing the game of grades. I think you should just, take the courses that you feel you're capable of taking and put in your best effort and, kind of let the chips, fall from on there. And I think when you have that kind of mindset, things usually turn out just all right. What would you tell students who are preparing for 4 AP exams? So I've had a couple of students that were taking my class when I took pre-calculus, and this was before pre-calculus was an AP course. And they were taking pre-calculus, which was a demanding course. And then they were also taking 4 APs. And their life was just crazy. Like they were super stressed out. And inevitably, I think 2 of those kids ended up dropping my course because I was demanding. But what did they have to do? They had to focus on the AP courses that they were taking. And, so I get it. The students are competing, right? They're competing against themselves. They're competing against other students. They're trying to get the most out of themselves. But it kind of goes back to my advice with like the 9th grader. And I think it's great to push yourself, I think it's great to be able to see what you're capable of and put in all the hard work. But I also think that there's a balancing act. And because you only get these 4 years that you're in high school. And while there can be a lot said to what your success and what you're able to achieve in those 4 years academically or in athletics, I also don't want those 4 years to go by and for you to kind of wish you could have done something else or taken an opportunity to You'll meet some new people or do some other activities that that you're never going to get the opportunity to try again. So I think it's a balancing act. I think some students are definitely capable of taking 4 APs. And there's definitely some students that are stretching themselves way too thin by taking 4 APs or 3 APs or 2 APs. I never took 1 AP course when I was in high school, ever. So like, it's okay. I turned out all right? I didn't even take calculus until my sophomore year of college. It's okay. I turned out all right. I had some great opportunities. I met a lot of great friends. I had fun, but I also put in the work when I needed to. So I don't want to give advice on like, you should do this, or you should be like me, or you should be like the next person. Like, have that conversation with your parents, your guidance counselors, your professors, and work hard. I love that attitude, but also realize, these 4 years are the only 4 years you're going to have in high school, right? You have your whole life to be able to continue learning and educating and going to school and advancing your career. So, choose wisely, put in your work, challenge yourself, do the best you can do, but also realize that's not the end all be all, or, who you're going to be defined by. So it's a balancing act. Were you struggling in math when you went to school? Yes, I struggled with math all the way. Really started, remember struggling in like algebra. I think I took algebra in like 7th grade. And I remember I took the test where it's like, you could go into the advanced math. And my mom, who was a math teacher, was like, nah, you're not ready. And I was like, of course, like, that's like that time where you're like, oh no, now I'm like in the dumb kid math class, right? All my other friends are in the fast math. But she was right, because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready and prepared for it. I started to struggle in 7th grade and 8th grade. And like, I knew what to do to get by. And that's all I was kind of focused on, was like, what do I need to do to get by? And then if I had an easy teacher, then I could learn their system of how they graded, how they taught. And I usually got like A's or B's. But if I had a teacher that challenged me or that really forced me to know what I was doing, I got C's and D's. And so even though I think I got a D in pre-calculus my senior year, I ended up getting an A when I was in college and ended up earning my degree. But yeah, I had to relearn everything I was supposed to learn in high school in college. And it was a lot of work. And I learned a lot about myself and about math through that course. So I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, but it was very helpful for my journey. Do you overthink like crazy your first year of teaching? I think I already told you this, but I'm a student teacher at my school, and I plan out that I think about exactly what I'm going to say beforehand. Yeah, lol. Yeah. I mean, it's your first year. Like, give yourself great. Yeah. I mean, my first year, I think people that are teachers, we're just a natural teacher, I think, is just a different breed. You want to be so successful in the classroom, and you put in extra work that people don't even know about, people don't even see. And so I love hearing that enthusiasm from you, because there's so many hours that I put into teaching that nobody knew about. It's not like I'm posting them on social media. It's not like I'm making a video about all these extra things that I'm doing for my students or to get better and prepared. But as you get more comfortable inside the classroom, as you get more comfortable with teaching the content, it becomes more natural. And I don't think you'll need to prepare as well as much. But then again, once you change courses or change, classes or what, things happen, you're kind of back to square one. I remember my last year teaching, I was teaching geometry, and I hadn't taught geometry in like 4 years. And it was a ton of prep work that I put in, because, even though I had taught it years ago, like, I'd matured as a teacher from the last 5 years ago or 4 years ago that I taught it, right? So I had more knowledge and understanding of how I was connecting. And so it's not like I could just take my old lesson plans from 5 years ago and like reuse them. I had to rethink the way that I was approaching things and teaching things. And so, yeah, it was a lot of prep work, but, have fun with it. Just keep on making good, engaging lessons. Keep on trying to improve yourself each and every day. And you'll just notice, after between like year 3 and 5, you'll start to get a little groove. And that's what I would always, tell people to look into. Like, it takes time. You're not going to master it in a year. You're not going to master it in a couple years. Give yourself time. Just keep on looking for ways to improve, and you're really going to start seeing the fruits of kind of that your labor in teaching. Might be off topic, but what's your opinion on homeschooling? I'm homeschooled in 10th grade. So what should I be doing right now? I have no idea about homeschool curriculum. I know there's like curriculum you can buy that's like aligned, with whatever state standards, whatever state you're in the standards. So I think homeschooling is great. And, just like anything else, guys, I think I'm a big proponent of public schools, but I'm also a realist to understand that homeschooling is going to work for a lot of different families. Public school is going to work for a lot of different families. Private school, a charter school, magnet school is going to work for a lot of different families. So I think it's great. And especially now with our technological advancements, with like online curriculum and online videos, homeschool is a lot different than what it used to be 20 years ago from on there. And so I don't have a problem or think there's any negative capacity, with that homeschool and with the access that people have, nowadays. So I'm fully on point with you as far as, the homeschool students, and using, a lot of them use my videos, to help them learn and doing that self-learning, which I think is awesome. And I think it's great. Just curious, did you ever have a student for multiple years? Yes, I had a student for 3 years in a row. I was almost her only math teacher. Now, I went to a big high school. It was probably, I don't know, we were just maybe around 3,000. I think like 28 to 32, kind of fluctuated. But, and we, in our math department, we probably had 12 math teachers. And she had me, Shayla was her name. I won't say her last name, but Shayla. I had her freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. And then her senior year, I was like, oh my God, I think I was even teaching you calculus. And so she took my pre-calculus class, and she could have gone to calculus, but she ended up taking stats, which I was not going to teach. And it was so funny because I was like, oh, I'm going to miss you. I had you 3 years in a row. And she's like, yeah, Miss McLogan, I'm going to miss you too, but I really don't think I could have gone a fourth year with you. And I was like, you know what? I get it. I totally get it. But she was an awesome student. And to be honest with you, I think having the same teacher for math 4 years in a row is kind of crazy. So I'm glad she was able to get somebody else. I don't know. I'm just a classic TI kind of person. So that's what I remember learning on when I was in high school. That's usually what we used, in my high school as well for the TI calculators. But I also am a huge fan of Desmos. So I love using Desmos, even the app on my phone. And I use the app on my computer all the time. So I'm a big Desmos fan as well. What you do if you've already failed all 3 quarters of math and have no chance of passing the class? I have no incentive to continue to try if I can't pass. Yeah, I think you need to have a conversation with your teacher, counselor, and parents and kind of see, all right, what's the point? What am I doing this for? Can I retake this class online? Can I get maybe another teacher? Like, it didn't work out for whatever reason. So what are your options now, right? Do you need to take this as a summer course? Can you take it online? Can you retake it next year? How is that going to impact you? So there's options, right? Some of them might not be what you want, but that's okay. It's not good to fail a test regardless of why that happened. If it was, circumstances beyond your control, if there's circumstances within your control, it doesn't matter. Failing just stinks either way, but there's options. And so I would talk with your guidance counselor, your teacher, and your parents about that, and just kind of determine what's the best route, moving forward. Well, there's a lot of different ways, and it all depends on the type of expression. Tomorrow, I have a quiz for Calc 1. It's on limits and stuff. Need help? Well, Rick, there's a lot that I could probably talk about on limits, but I do have a playlist on limits that if you are interested in, it's probably like over 100 problems or 100 videos. That's all just me doing problems from limits. So let me see if I can probably find it for you, and I'll maybe even type it into the chat. And therefore, if you want to look at it, check out those videos. You can probably, most of the videos are going to be like rather short. So you can probably watch them like back to back to back. I don't have a full limit video yet. It's been a while. I got to go back through and, and start going back through my, calculus curriculum. But let me see if I can get this for you, because I know I have it. Calculus, the limit, 176 videos. There you go. Let me go and get a copy and paste for you. And you can just, you got your quiz tomorrow, just eat your heart out on these. Tons of examples. All right. Do you think it's a good idea to stay up late for demanding courses? Personally, I had to stay up late each night for my junior year, completing lengthy homework assignments. Yeah, it all depends on what, like when I was in high school, my mom used to wake up really early. And so I would wake up early and do my math studies, just because I was always doing sports after school. So once I did sports and then I ate, I was just exhausted. I just wanted to like sit down, watch TV and like go to bed. So for me, working out in the morning worked the best. And even now, like as a teacher, I would wake up so early to get ready and go to school. I didn't really have enough time to do a lot of work beforehand. So I would usually stay up late. So I was just like you. And then nowadays, same kind of thing. Like with my kids being home from school, I used to wake up early. I used to wake up at 4:30 every day. And that was kind of my time to, work, doing some math problems or do YouTube stuff. And now my kids are a little bit older. I take care of them after school. I do dinner. I'm just exhausted. By the time my wife gets home and we did their homework and we ate food, I'm exhausted. And so I usually, I'll be exhausted, but then like, why did I change it? I don't know. I've now actually started going to bed late again. That's why I'm doing these live streams back at 9 o'clock. Cause I was like, why am I not doing these live streams anymore? I don't even go to bed like at 9. I used to go to bed like at 9:30. Oh, I'm playing that video. I used to go to bed like at 9:30 every night, just so I could wake up at 4:30 to do work in the morning. I'd do work until like, 7 when my kids would wake up. But now I just now I do a lot of my work later. All right, Rick, you got a playlist in there. All right, Foodians, if you have a question, go ahead and submit it to brianmclogan.com/Q&A. I have a lot of videos on completing the square, but if you have a specific problem you want me to take a look at, Violet, then you can just go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A and I'll be happy to take a look for you. Super Schaefer. Generally just wanted to say thank you for your videos. I'm an applied math major. Awesome. And you've helped me immensely. Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be able to help you out and best of luck. All right. All right. We got to get into some of the math that I got going on, but let's go and see Araf. He said, did you make assigned seats? I want to do that because it makes the kids get used to talking to new people, but I don't want them to hate me either. Yeah, we always had to have assigned seats. It was actually like a requirement in my school to have students sit in assigned seats. And the exact same thing. They didn't like when I had assigned seats because they always wanted to sit next to their friends, right? And rightfully so. But I did assigned seats 4 times. So I would just do it every quarter. And, that was it. Like you had to sit in your assigned seat and that was kind of it. And it worked out. But I also did a lot of opportunities where we would work in groups. We'd work in different groups. So, the assigned seats was as a way for me we always knew where people, were at. And, legally I had to have that for our school district. But in reality, it's like I was always moving the kids around anyway. So it didn't really make that big of a difference. Oh, come on. Okay. What are 2 recommended things to learn after calculus? It all depends on what you want to go into. I think once you take calculus, like the world's your oyster. You can go wherever you want to, I mean, so it just depends. Do you want to be applied mathematics? Like, do you want to go into engineering? Do you want to go to data science? Like, there's so many different avenues you can go into. Like I said, I'm not really into apply. I like my proofs class and graph theory. So, who's who? That was me. I agree, Alaska. Night live streams are pretty good for me now too. I did get my minor in political science. So I never taught any other course besides math. I take that back, but I don't want to get into that story now. But I did teach but mostly just math. But I do have a minor in political science, which I would never go into teach it because, I only have a minor in it and it's been way too long since I was even into that stuff. But yeah, I could possibly be able to teach that. Oh yes, it was very different. I had students cheat every single year that I was a teacher, sometimes multiple years. And I think it all just comes into accountability, or not accountability, but having conversations with your students and the expectations. And, I always treated it I wanted to, students to respect me and to respect themselves and to understand the challenges for cheating and what that meant. And so it didn't matter if I had an open dog law or not, students would still cheat. And I understood that. And to be honest with you though, based on each circumstance, I had a kind of a different reaction because I always wanted to have an open dialogue with students about, what was going on and what would propel them to cheat and what would be the best course of action. So yeah, we've had some like no consequences, for like very light, issues. And then also some more serious ones. So it was all kind of dependent. But it was something we talked about every single year, and every single year, regardless of how much of an impact I thought I made on students being anti-cheating, students still cheated. Is that Sunday? Oh yeah. Let me go and check my poll. All right, man, there's a lot of people asking me about rational equations. I'll probably have to make some videos, or hopefully I'm assuming you guys submitted some questions so we can go over there. I'm struggling with rational equations. What can I do to give myself a better understanding of rational equations? Factoring is extremely important for rational equations. So if you know how to factor, that's going to help you simplify things. That would be critically important. But then there's a lot of other things, on there as far as understanding your discontinuities, your holes versus your asymptotes, knowing the asymptotes, knowing the rules for the asymptotes. There's a lot of things that go into it. But if you want me to, do a problem maybe for next stream, then submit it at brianmclogan.com/Q&A, and I'll look into doing that. With an expression, when you use FOIL method, are there any other steps after FOIL part to simplify it? Well, yeah, you gotta, combine like terms. So whatever terms have the same base, the exponents to be the same, that means the same base and the same power, then you can combine them by combining their leading coefficients. But yeah, once you get that, typically when you're doing FOIL, you'll have a trinomial depending on what the variables are you're multiplying. Actually, I'm doing geometry course and I watch your video for tests. Awesome. No, I'm not sure of a way you can turn your logarithm into roots, but you can definitely do some work with roots and your logarithms. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time. I did break down. I apologize, guys. I did get rid of my Google form. So we'll see how long these questions take me. If I have enough time, I will get back to them. I'll try to see if whatever questions you guys submitted on here. So let's go and get through these questions, and then we'll see how long it goes. All right. Abdul Ghani, I'm having trouble solving this problem, especially with the bottom three cases. Would you please solve it for me? Thanks. So question number 9, assign the correct number of zeros to the following expressions. Each column can only be selected once. Gotcha. Okay. So I'm going to go through. Okay. So let's do the easy one first. So remember, if we're trying to identify zeros, right? If we're trying to go ahead and identify zeros, all we're simply going to do is take our expression and set it equal to 0. That's going to give us, now if we can solve, when we're solving for x, that's going to give us the zeros of the equation. And typically those zeros are going to represent the real x-intercepts that we'll have. So in this case, if I add 1 and take the square root plus or minus, you get x equals plus or minus 1. So you can see here in this case, we're going to have 2 solutions. Okay, so that one's equals 2. So we know that none of these left are going to have 2. I'm assuming this is the e raised to the x squared. So if I have 0 equals e to the x squared. Now this one doesn't make any sense at all because e raised to what number is going to equal 0? Well, e raised to the 0 power is equal to 1. Remember that, right? So, and then also if you think about the exponential equation, like e never crosses the x-axis, right? There's actually no zeros, in for on that case. So no matter what number I plug in for this power, it's never going to make it equal to 0. That was a horizontal asymptote. If you remember the graph of the exponential function, right? It looks like that with a horizontal asymptote. So no matter what value I have for x, I'm never going to get e raised to that number is going to equal 0. So this is going to have 0 solutions. Now this next one looks crazy. And I'm not sure what class the student is in and what we could do algebraically for this. So I'm going to skip it and come back to cosine of 2x. Now, cosine of 2x, if you remember, this is no equations. These graphs, like if you look at cosine, the initial period looks like this. You can see there's going to be 2, zeros. But remember, this graph continues going like this, and it goes like that as well. So we can see this is actually going to have infinite many zeros. So that is going to be our infinite. Now, the cool thing about this student's question was it says each column can only be selected once. So I'm not sure what they've learned in their class where they need to be able to solve for that. You can go through some algebraic, methods, especially with calculus, but I'm just not sure what this course is. But since every column can only have 1, I know that this is going to have 3 zeros. So that'd be your answer right there. All right, Johnny says, please help me remember how to do this. So find the missing angle of x. Okay, so we have a right triangle, and that's important because when you have a right triangle, you know that your hypotenuse is directly across from your 90-degree angle. And we also know the angle or the side between whatever angle you have, in this case, it's your unknown, and your 90-degree, that is going to be what we call our adjacent side. And then the angle or the side length that's opposite of that angle is going to be the opposite side. And then we have our hypotenuse. Okay. So when we're trying to find a missing angle, the best thing we're going to want to do is, and we have 2 side lengths, is to use our trigonometric functions. So just remember the sine of a given angle is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. The cosine of an angle in a right triangle is going to be the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And the tangent of an angle inside of a right triangle is going to represent the ratio of your opposite side over your adjacent side. And all these really are just comparisons. Like the sine of an angle is basically saying that's the relationship of how big is the opposite side compared to the hypotenuse. How big is the adjacent compared to the hypotenuse? And tangent is the relationship between how big is the opposite compared to the adjacent. Now what we need to do is pick which of these trigonometric functions are we going to use to solve for x. So we want to be able to use the one that's going to have opposite and hypotenuse. So this is going to be our angle, x. So we're going to use x instead of theta. But we want to have opposite and hypotenuse. Well, you can see that sine is opposite and hypotenuse. So I have the sine of x equals opposite, which is going to be 19, over my hypotenuse, which is 20.8. Now, again, I need to solve for x, right? And think about this. If I had like 3x is equal to 12, what do? Well, to solve for this, you need to undo what's happening to the x, right? How do you undo multiplying by 3? You divide by 3, right? That's what we call our inverse operations. So how do we undo sine? We can't divide by sine on both sides. That's not what the sine function is. We need to undo sine by using its inverse operation. Well, what is the inverse operation of sine? It's inverse sine. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the sine inverse of both sides. Okay, so therefore I'm going to have x is equal to, and now on my calculator, looks like everything is in degrees. So we're going to make sure your degree mode is in degrees. And I'm still going to type in sine inverse of 19 divided by a 20.8. And when I do that, I get 65.98818.129, which I'm just going to truncate at 65.988. Voila. All right. Blakely, I'd like all three of these explained. Well, thanks, Blakely. Come on, I'm doing a live stream here. You give me 3 problems to do. let's focus on one. But I think these are going to be relatively simple, so that's okay. I understand the concepts of zeros, but not how to find them. All right. So we suppose we have a polynomial function of degree 4 with rational coefficients has the following given numbers as zeros. Find the other zeros. Okay, so it's cool. We have 4 zeros. So the cool thing about this is we need to understand when we have complex conjugates or when we have complex zeros or irrational zeros, you have to understand that the conjugate exists. So therefore, if I have I know I must have a negative I. If I have 2 minus the square root of 5, I have to have the conjugate, which is a plus 2 plus the square root of 5. All right. And again, the reason why this works is, let's say I had, x squared is equal to a 5. Well, to solve for this, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And remember, you have to include plus or minus. So whenever there's a positive square root of 5, you have to have a negative square root of 5 as well. Okay. And the same thing works if this was a negative 5. If I had x equals, or let's say x squared equals a negative 4, right? You take the square root, you're going to take the square root, x equals a plus or minus. And again, square root to negative 4 is going to be a 2i, but you have to include the plus or minus 2i. So remember, the number of zeros excluding multiplicity is going to tell you the degree. So we have 4 zeros. They all have a multiplicity of 1. And so that's why this has a degree of 4. So everything checks out. Problem 1.24, list all the potential rational zeros. So for this one, we want to use the rational zero test. And the rational zero test is basically going to be taking your constant, which we label as P, and putting them over your leading coefficient, which is going to be Q. And what we're going to do is we're going to find the list of factors of P or plus or minus P over Q. That is going to be the list of all the potential rational zeros. It's not telling you which ones are going to be rational zeros, which one are going to be zeros. All it's really saying is if you have a real rational zero, it's going to come from that list. So let's go ahead and do plus or minus 11 over 1. Well, this one's kind of easy, right? Because basically all I'm going to have here is the factors of 11 are 11 and 1. So I can have plus or minus 11 and plus or minus 1. And that's about it. So again, you can still have, you can see what? It's a degree 5. Like we're going to have 5 different zeros. They don't all have to be real and rational. Look at this problem up here. None of those are rational, right? So it's okay if you don't have a lot of options. And sometimes actually it's better not to have a lot of options, because if you're trying to find all the zeros, you want to use synthetic division. You don't want a big list of rational zeros to test. You only really want like a couple, and then you're kind of good. All right, the last one says, find the polynomial function of the lowest degree with rational coefficients that has the given numbers as sum of its zeros. Okay, so, well, remember, if we have negative 5i or negative 5i, then we have to include a positive 5i, right? So remember that from the first one. Now, what we're simply going to do is kind of work, if you remember like factoring a polynomial, like if I give you a polynomial and I say find the zeros, you take the polynomial function, set it equal to 0, then you factor it. Once you have a product equal to 0, you apply the zero product property, and then you can solve. In this case, we're basically just going to be working our way backwards. So what I'm going to do, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set all my zeros equal to x. So I have a negative 5i, x equals a positive 5i. and then x equals a positive 4. Now I'm going to set them all equal to 0. So to do that, I'll just add a 5i. So I have x plus 5i is equal to 0. I have an x minus a 5i is equal to 0. And I have an x minus 4 is equal to 0. Well, these are going to be my list of my factors. So now I can rewrite my factors in factored form and set them equal to 0. So in this case, I'll have a x minus or plus 5i times a x minus a 5i times a x minus 4 is equal to 0. Now, all I simply need to do is multiply this out and then set it equal to a polynomial function like p of x or f of x, and therefore go. And you can see if you were to kind of look at this backwards, it's like here I factored it, set equal to 0, apply the 0 product property, set them equal to x, and those are my zeros. So now I just need to multiply this. I do notice that I have a difference of two squares going on here. Like that's a plus b, and that'd be a minus b. So I can apply the difference of two squares here. That's going to be kind of helpful. So let's see, if I multiply that out, I give me an x squared, and then 5 times negative 5 is a negative 25, or 5 squared is 25. But then remember, I squared is going to be a negative 1. And so if it's x squared minus b squared, that'd be minus 25. But then you have an I squared, which is a negative 1. So it's actually going to be an x plus 25. And then we're going to have x minus a 4. And let's set this equal to y. Now I just need to multiply this all out. And again, we can just use distributive property or FOIL, whatever you want to think about it. Multiply everything times everything. So in this case, I'll have a x cubed minus a 4x squared plus 25x minus 100. And rather than setting that equal to y, I'll put the y right there. All right. 7. Tips for very hard question that you have no idea how to do, and best way to practice, as books include very basic questions here in the UK for the GCSE. All right, so this one says, I don't think I've done any problems for GCSE. I'm kind of excited. So it says the diagram shows 3 circles. Each of them have a radius of 4 centimeters. The centers of the circle, the centers of the circle are A, B, and C, such that A, B, and C is a straight line. And AB equals BC is equal to 4 centimeters. Work out the total area of the 2 shaded regions. Give your answer in terms of pi. Okay. So we know that's 4. And we know that's 4. And we need to find the area of this. Now, if that's 4, that's a radius, right? What we want to do is, it's very easy to kind of, I think, look at a problem like this and be like, I have no idea what the area of it is of that shape, right? Because you're like, this is like a segment, an arc, like it's kind of all weird, right? So I think a lot of times students will get confused looking at a problem like this because they don't understand what the shape is. So my best advice for you, we labeled what we know, A, B, and B, C. But now let's go and create maybe some shapes that we do know, right? Because it says the center, that's a straight line they have, so that's going to be your radius. So let's maybe create some shapes that we do know what the area is. And if I create a point here, that's going to create a triangle. That's an equilateral triangle, right? Because that's the radius of a circle, and that's the radius of this middle circle. So this will be a equilateral triangle. That's important because what do I know about equilateral triangles? They're all going to be 60, 60, 60, right? They're also equiangular. So then I have one here. That's going to be important because if that's 60, then I know that's 60. And I know I can find the area of an arc or a sector of a circle if I have the angle and the radius. So if I have the radius of 4 and 60, I'm just going to have these little extra parts. So I think I have enough information. If I can identify, so if here's my sector, so let's kind of like write everything out. So I have a sector. I can find the area of that sector. right? Because I have the radius and I have the angle, which is 60 degrees. Now, again, I do have these little areas here that I don't know what they are. However, I can find, if I notice how this part, this sector with these two parts is the same thing as these two sectors. So if I find the area of the triangle and then, or the area of the sector, and then subtract out the triangle, that will give me, yeah, because when I look in from there, if I find the area of that sector and then subtract the triangle, that, oh yeah, for this one, yeah, let's look at it. So that actually is a little bit different. So if you think about this, if I can find the area of the sector, but then subtract out this triangle, that will give me this little area. So then I take the area of the sector, subtract 2 of those, and that will give me that shaded region. Okay, so let's call this A. All right, so now I know I've kind of made a mess of it, and if you're already confused on this problem, all my chicken scratch is not going to help. So let's work it out and see what we get. Okay, so I'm going to do this. 4. And then we'll draw these all out and see what we got here. Okay, and I'm going to call this A, that area region A, and I'll call this one B. And basically, those are going to be exactly the same. All right. But what I want to do right now is, let's call this A, let's call this C, and let's call this D. Okay, so let's find the area of the sector. So you've got to remember what the area of a sector is. So area of a sector, that is going to equal to pi r squared times your angle in degrees, so theta, divided by a 360 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to find the area of my sector C. So let's do this area of sector C. Okay, so if I want to find the area of sector C, the radius is 4, and the degree, remember we're dealing with, is 60 degrees. Like that's 60 degrees. These are all equal angular triangles. So therefore that's going to be a pi r squared, not r squared, it's 4 squared, times a 60 over a 360. Those can divide out, and you can see that's going to be a 1 over 6, and then that'd be 4 squared, 16. So that's going to be a 16 pi times 1 over 6. So divide by 2 on the top and bottom. That'd be an 8 over 3. So the area of that is going to be an 8 pi over 3. Okay, so what that's going to be, let's draw this out. So this whole area, so if that's like point B, that's 60 degrees, this is point C, and that's 4. That is the area of that sector. Now, let's go and find the area of the triangle C. So that is going to be the sector. Now, let's go and find the triangle of C. Because the triangle, if you remember, is going to be kind of similar to that. But the triangle here, so that sector right there, so that's going to be B, that's still 4, that's still 60 degrees, and this is still your point C. Now, if you remember for your triangle, that's going to be 1/2 base times height. Now, we kind of have a problem here because we have the base, which would be 4, but we don't know what the height is. Now, we do have the angle, so we can use a little bit of trig. So, and no, don't want that. Let's see here. So if I create a right triangle, and then I can say, let's say that's going to be height. I could say opposite Actually, it doesn't matter. These are all 4, right? So that's 4 and that's 4 technically. So I can do opposite over adjacent. So I could do sine. So I could say the sine of 60 degrees equals the opposite side, h, over the opposite over hypotenuse, which would be 4. So h is equal to a sine of 60 degrees. All right, and we know the base is going to be 4 as well, right? So area of that is going to be 1/2 my base, which is 4, times my height, which is going to be, oops, come on, Mr. McLogan. That's going to be a 4 sine of 60 degrees. Now we should know what sine of 60 degrees, that's going to be a square root of 3 over 2. So let's simplify this. So 4 times sine of 60 degrees, that's going to be a square root of 3 over 2, right? Cosine, yeah. And then that will divide out, so that's going to be a 2 square root of 3. Okay, so then I'm going to multiply that, which is my height, so that's going to be a 2 square root of 3. Those 2's will divide out, and I have my area of C is going to be a 4 square root of 3. Okay, so if I want to find the area of this sector minus, so I have the area of the triangle, or area of the sector, and then I need to subtract 2 of those though, right? Because that's what that, oh wait, I need to figure out what that angle, what that side length is. So let's go and find the area of this little sector. So my area of my sector, so to find the, here what I do, I need to figure out what that is, right? This little part right here, this is what I'm trying to figure out. So let's call this the gray sliver. Okay, so I don't know what I'm doing. Gray sliver. How do you find the gray sliver? That's going to be sector minus triangle, right? That's what we need to be able to figure, because we want to be able to figure out what 2 of them are. So let's go and figure out what at least one of them is. To do that, to find the gray sliver, I need to take the sector, which is going to be, let's call it sliver, is going to be the sector, which is 8 pi over 3. And that's going to be minus 4 pi over 3, which is going to be the triangle. Or sorry, 4 square root of 3. And then I can go ahead and get common denominator. So put that over 1, multiply by 3 over 3. And that's going to be an 8 pi over 3 minus a 12 square root of 3 over 3. Something's not right. That'd be a 2 square root of 3. Sector. That'd be 3. That'd be 2 pi. How is that more? That's 1 over 6. And that would be 8 pi over 3. Let's see, did I make a mistake on that? So that'd be 1/2 4 times sine of 60 degrees. Those would cancel out, so that's 2 square root of 3. 1/2 base times height. Oh, did I rewrite that wrong? No, it'd be 4 pi. Okay. Yeah, I can't combine those anyways. So I don't know what I'm doing. That's going to be fine. I was trying to combine, that's where I got confused. I was thinking of that as square root of 3. But there's really nothing else I can do with that. Doesn't even need to get common denominators. We're going to say that's going to be good. 8 pi over 3 minus a 4 pi over 3. So that's going to be that little sector length. Now again, if you look at this area, we actually have 2 gray slivers. So if I want to find this sector, So if I want to find the sliver, come on. Why am I keep on doing this? There you go. So I did the triangle minus there is going to be from that. So now if I need to find what the actual area is of that, I'm going to take my sector. And that's going to be a 8 pi over 3. And then now I'm going to subtract it from these two sectors. I don't know. My brain's not. I got to look it back over. That's going to be 8 pi over 3. Because that'd be an 8 pi over 3 minus a 4 pi or 4 square root of 3. Because that represents that silver selector. I think I made a mistake. I don't know. I'm going to punt this one. I'll come back to it as far as look at. Sorry, Greg. I know getting it set up, but my brain is hurting. We've already been on the stream for over a long. This problem's taking too long. I'll have to go back and check. I'll double check my work. I'm not sure. Things are just not making sense for what I had when I originally looked at the problem. I feel like I'm getting something switched around. But then again, once I'm on a live stream for over an hour and I've been doing a problem for that long, I usually end up making there's something I added wrong that just doesn't connect right with me right now. So I apologize. I'm going to have to punt it. All right, let me go and get to whatever questions you guys have back on that you guys added on. And let me see, did I have... No, I'll go back and look at this one. I thought I had everything. I had the numbers in my back of my head for that area. I just feel like there's something wrong that I'm missing. But that'd be the area of the sector minus the sliver. But now you're going to have... So that's the area of the triangle. So that represents your sliver. And now you're going to have two of them. But there's two of these slivers, right? That represents the sliver. So then let's just go and see if I can do this. But you're going to have two of these slivers, right? And then you just got to multiply that by 2 because that's going to, it says find the area of the shaded region. So you have two of these slivers. So let's go and distribute that. Let's just kind of work it. So there'd be 8 pi over 3 minus 16 pi over 3 minus an 8 square root of 3. This is now going to be a negative 8 pi over 3. And that'd be minus a 8 square root of 3. Oh, that's a plus. Sorry. So that's going to represent the area of the sectors. And then that just represents our like area A. So that is going to be our sector minus the two slivers. So sector minus the two slivers. And then remember, we have two of them though, right? So I need to multiply 2s. And so that'd be 2 times a negative 8 pi over 3 plus an 8 square root of 3. So my final answer is a negative 16 pi over 3 plus a 16 square root of 3. All right, I'll have to go and check the answer. And if I made a mistake, I'll let you guys know where I made it on the next live stream. All right, I'm sorry, guys. Every single time I get you guys to ask more questions, whatever you guys submitted questions, I will go back and answer back on my stream. And also, if you just joined in, I am looking, I'll post on my channel if you guys are interested in another live stream. This one's going to be like a final exam live stream that I'll be doing for Algebra 2 students. So let me actually go and take a look at, for those of you that answered the poll, because I am interested in that. Where's my poll? There you go. April and May. Okay. Big one in May. Cool. So April, guys, big month that we need to get ready for. And only 8 more days until beginning of April. So for those of you that are preparing for May or your exam in May, April is going to be a big month. So we want to make sure we get you guys ready and prepared on that. So I think I'll look into some things I can do, but I will plan on going live each and every week on my Algebra 2 and Pre-Calculus channels, just doing final exam study prep. So keep a lookout for that. I'll let you guys posted, and thank you for joining the stream. I'll see you guys next week. Cheers.